Every time I sit down to write something or do a YouTube post, whatever, I first have to come up with lots of excuses why I shouldn't be writing. I imagine most people go through this to some extent, come up with these excuses to procrastinate. But the major line of excuse that I tend to come up with is the discomfort I have with my own level of hypocrisy. So often I talk about things like peace between people, believing in the future, the fact that the Earth is a closed system that we are currently damaging almost irreparably. And yet in my own life, I am so far from perfect that saying these things sometimes feels wrong. I am not perfect in my environmental treatment of the world. My footprint is large. I have huge amounts of waste in my life. I am often cynical. I am often willing to believe the worst in people. I am often imperfect in my dealings with other people's feelings. And so I ask myself, given all of this, is it fair of me to hope for better things for other people? Am I too much of a hypocrite to be saying what I want to say? Right now, a good public example of this is Al Gore has been accused, and I'm not sure if these have been proven, but it's quite possible, that his family, his household, uses up more electricity than the average American household by quite a margin. And of course, conservative pundits jump on this and say, well, see, he's not living up to his message of cutting back and doing good by the planet. Why should we? And there's something true about what they're saying. It's difficult to listen to somebody, go on about how sacrifices are needed when they're unwilling to make those sacrifices. So is he too much of a hypocrite? Should he not be speaking? So I ask myself two questions along these lines. First of all, would it have been better for Mr. Gore to have remained silent? And I think the answer is probably no. Maybe he is not perfect, perhaps he does tarnish his message by his own behavior, but on the other hand, there's political capital to make change that just hasn't existed in decades. And, while he's not solely responsible for this, he deserves a pat on the back in this direction. So the fact that he is a hypocrite does not necessarily detract from the fact that his message is important, and it's better that he have made that message rather than having remained silent. And the other thing is, why do people react the way they do? Why are they so quick to jump on anything, any toehold of hypocrisy to try and destroy the message? And I think this kind of shooting of the messenger is a bit of a societal immune system to any kind of change that we know is inevitably necessary and often painful. When people are faced with somebody giving them a message that they're going to have to live up to, that requires more of them, it's much easier to take apart the person in front of them speaking, because all humans are imperfect and we make easy targets. Whereas ideals, important behavioral changes, these are more difficult to puncture. So there are two things. Is it better that I remain silent in the face of my own imperfection? And I think the answer is probably not, although I'll certainly return to this excuse whenever I need it. And the other, do I want to, before even speaking, fall victim to fearing the people who slaughter messengers? And I think the answer to that is no. So, should the day ever come when I have long lists of comments underneath my posts, which is unlikely, but should that happen, and some of them are rife with the kind of nastiness that you see around people who try to speak publicly, I'm not going to allow that to silence anything I have to say, and I think none of you should either, because that's the worst of humanity, trying to bring us down to that level, and it's a temptation that we should always fight against. So I think that is my puncture of the excuse not to write and to post, and we'll put aside that excuse, at least for now, and move on to say other things. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.